In this video I'm going to show you how to use scriptable objects in order to create an easy system that allows you to select levels, cars, guns, and display certain information about them. All of this will be done with a minimum amount of effort and code, and you can use this system for other purposes as well, like for example character or item selection. So let's go! The first thing that we want to do is create a new script called map and open it up. Unlike our normal scripts which derive from one behavior, this one is going to derive from scriptable object. And to put it simply, a scriptable object is just a data container in Unity. You can put in any type of data you want and then access it later. And to be able to create a scriptable object in Unity, we need to type in create asset menu before the class name, and then indicate a file name and menu name, which are going to appear when you right click inside the editor. When you're done typing this, let's go back into Unity and create a new folder for scriptable objects. And inside I'm going to create a new folder called maps, because we're actually going to have 3 types of scriptable objects, and this will help keep everything organized. Now when you right click and select create, you're going to see that the first option on top is called scriptable objects. Now press map and we have created our first scriptable object. If you look in the top right corner, you'll see that this object has a different icon and the map script associated with it. So let's double click it to open it. And let's start adding information to our map object. First of all, we're going to need an integer for the map index, then we're going to need 2 strings for the map name and description. Then I'm going to put a color that we're going to use for the map name, and the sprite that we're going to use to display the image of the map. And finally, I'm going to use an object variable to store the scene that we need to load. Pay attention that all the variables need to be public, because we want to be able to edit them and access them from other scripts. Now when you go back into Unity and select the map object, you'll see a lot of fields for each variable that you created. Most of them are straightforward and self-explanatory, except the last variable, which is the scene that we need to load. Because Unity doesn't have a way to pass in scenes as variables, I made this one of type object, which allows us to pass in any type of object. That's why you have to be careful and choose an actual scene here. Alright, now let's set up a way to display all this information from the scriptable object to the screen. First, let's get rid of a lightning, because we're only gonna need the UI, then select the camera and change it to solid color and change the background color to be something dark. Next, I'm gonna create a canvas and put a background image on it. This part will be sped up, so if you want to see the exact steps I'm taking, just slow it down a bit. Also, if you want to use the same images as me, the links will be in the description as always. Alright, now we have a background. Next I want to set up a basic display that will show information about our levels. So first we're going to create an image that's going to act as a holder, and on top of it we're going to put the map name, map description, and the image that actually shows our level. In the center of it all we're going to create another image, which is going to be the lock icon, and in case in which the level is locked we're going to show it, and when it's unlocked we're going to hide it. This next step is important, so make sure you follow it. Underneath the canvas, let's create a new object called map changer, which is going to be responsible for changing the maps. Inside it we need to create 2 new images, one to the left and one to the right, and these will be the buttons that allow us to choose the previous map or the next map. And again, I'm going to import a couple images in a font, and in case you want to use them, just follow the link in the description. Now I'm going to spend a bit of time on assigning images and fonts to everything and making everything look nice. I don't think this is necessary to see, so I'll speed up this part. Now I'm going to import the icon of the lock and choose the map image and make it a bit grayed out. And this will be the concept. The maps that will be locked will be a bit gray, and the ones that will be unlocked will have the normal color. Alright, now let's do some actual coding. Let's create a new script and call it map display, and attach it to the map display object. The main thing that we need in this script is a public void called display map, which is going to take in a map parameter. So basically what will happen is we will pass in a scriptable object of type map to this script, and this script will decide how to display that information. So for that purpose, let's create a private text variable called map name. And to use text and image variables, let's make sure to include using Unity engine.ui first. The second variable that we'll need is another text called map description. And the third one will be an image called map image. Before proceeding, let's make sure that this works. We're gonna take the map name.text and assign it the map name string that we took from the scriptable map object. Now repeat the exact same process for the map description. And to assign the map image, we're gonna modify the sprite and make it equal to _map.mapImage, which is a sprite as well. Now let's go back into Unity and assign all the references. Our next step will be to create a way to change maps and pass the current map to the map display script. So for that purpose, we need to create a new script, which I'm gonna call scriptableobjects changer. And finally, I'm gonna attach it to the map changer object that we created earlier. The main purpose of this script is very simple. It needs to store all the scriptable objects inside an array and pass it to the map display script whenever it's necessary. Inside the awake method, we're going to take the map display reference, call the display map function and pass in the first element of the array. Immediately you're going to see an error, and that's because display map actually requires an object of class map, and we gave it a scriptable object. But since we know that our scriptable object is in fact a map, we can solve this issue by using forced conversion. So now let's go back into Unity and see how it works. Let's select our map object, fill it in with an actual map name and map description. Also, let's change the color to green because I call this level Green Hills and it would seem appropriate, and pass in the correct image for this map. I will remove the scene object for now because we don't have a level that's ready yet. Then choose the map changer object and drag in the map display reference. And the final thing that we need to do before we test is to take the scriptable object and drag it in inside the array. Great, now when you press play, you'll see that the map name, description and image will be updated automatically. And just to show you that this works, I'm gonna change the map image, the name and the description and press play again. As expected, the correct values will pop on the screen, and that's because we loaded them correctly from the scriptable object and they will override the local values. So now let's introduce the ability to change maps by pressing the previous and next button. To do this, we will need a private integer called currentIndex, then create a public void called changeScriptableObject that will take in an integer parameter called _change. When we call this method, our current index variable will be incremented by the _change parameter that we get. Next up, we'll check if the map display is not null, and if it isn't, we'll just display our current map. Simple as that. Now inside the awake method, we can simply call the changeScriptableObject method and pass in 0 because we want to display the first map when we start the game. I also want to add the ability that when you are on the last map and press the next button, you'll actually get to the first map. And when you are on the first map and press the previous button, you'll actually get to the last map. And the last thing I want to change in this script is change the name of the array to scriptable objects, not serializable objects. It's a dumb mistake on my part. Now I'm gonna go back into Unity and create 4 other maps. Once you have them ready, select the map changer object and drag all of the maps inside the scriptable object changer script. The next step is to make the buttons work, so select both of them, add the button component to them, then press plus to add an on-click event listener. And since we want to access the function from the scriptable objects changer script, let's drag the map changer object in here. Now in the function field, select the change scriptable object method, and assign a parameter of -1 to the previous button and a parameter of 1 to the next button. And finally, when we press play, you'll see that we can cycle through all the maps and you'll get the relevant name, description and image. Now let's go back into the map display script and handle the logic of unlocking the maps. For this purpose, we'll need a local boolean variable called mapUnlocked, and we're going to use the playerprefs to check if the current scene is equal or bigger than the map index that we get from the scriptable object. And we're gonna introduce 2 new variables, one for the play button and the second one for the lock icon game object. The lock icon is going to be active when the map is not unlocked and inactive when the map is unlocked. And the play button is going to be interactable in the opposite scenario, so basically it's going to be interactable when the map is unlocked, and if the map is locked it's going to be simply grayed out. Alright, so that's handled. Now let's go back into Unity, select the map display object and make sure that the lock icon in the top right corner is unchecked. Now let's drag in the reference for the lock icon and make sure not to confuse it with the play button as I did here. Then select the play button and assign a button component to it. Then you can select the map display object again and drag in the play button into the correct field. And we're good to go. Now press play and you'll see that only the first map is playable, the rest will be locked for now. Now let's switch back to the map display script and handle the rest of the code. First of all, let's make the map name color be equal to the name color variable that we get from the scriptable object. Then we're gonna check if the map is unlocked, and if it is, we're gonna make the map image color be color.white, and if it isn't, we're gonna make it look dimmed by making it equal to color.gray. And if you want to see the effects, let's switch back into Unity, press play, and you're gonna see that all the maps have different name colors, and the image of the maps that are locked will be slightly darker than the ones that are unlocked. The next thing that we will implement is making sure that the play button works and it loads the correct level when you press play. And since we have a reference to the play button in the script, first we're gonna make sure that we remove all the listeners from this button. Next, we're gonna use the same reference to add a new listener to this button, and we're gonna use the scene manager to load the correct scene. And if you can't use scene manager, then make sure to include using Unity engine.scenemanagement to the top of the script. Then you can go back to this part and use the load scene function and pass in _map.scene_to-load.name to load the correct scene. Now that we've done this, we must go back into Unity and make sure that we actually have some levels to load. Let's open the Assets Scene folder and rename the current scene to Menu. Now let's create a new scene and call it 1_green hills to match the first level name. Now let's open the scene and create a very simple structure. The main camera will have a solid color, then let's create a canvas and put a background image on it. Let's stretch it over the entire screen and select the image that we've chosen for the first level. Once you have that, let's create another image, put it on the bottom of the screen and select the sprite that we've used for the play button for it. Once you have all that, let's go back to the menu scene, open the build settings and make sure to include both of our scenes in here. Also make sure that the menu is first and the level that we've created is the second. Order is important here. Now open the Scriptable Objects Maps folder, select the first map and place the level that we've created into the Scene to Load field. Now our play button is working. If you start the game from the menu scene and press the play button, you'll be taken to the first level, as expected. But you still can't unlock the following levels, so let's open the first level and take care of that. First of all, I'm gonna import a sprite of a button that says finish level and replace the play one. Then let's add a button component to it and rename it to finish level button. I'm also gonna rename the first image to background just to keep everything tidy. Now let's go into the scripts folder and create a new script called finish level. Attach it to the finish level button and drag it into the onClick field. Once you've done that, open the finish level script and create a public void called finish level. In here we're gonna use the playerprefs again, but I'm not gonna use the getInt method, but rather the setInt method. And that's because we want to increment the value of the current scene key this time rather than just access it. And to identify the value that we need to give it, we're gonna need the scene manager again, which means that we need to include using Unity engine.scenemanagement here as well. Then we can just write scene manager getActiveScene.buildIndex. This code will unlock the next scene and it will save the progress so that it stays unlocked even after you exit the game. Once we've done that, we can just load the menu again, which we know has the index 0 in the build settings. Now, you might have noticed that the finish level function is underlined with red, and that's because it has an error. The error is caused by the fact that the method name is the same as the class name, and that's not allowed, so let's change the method name slightly. Now let's switch back to Unity and attach this method to the finish level button. And now the only thing that's left to do is create more levels so we can test the entire system. So now let's go into the scenes folder, duplicate the first level, give it the name of the second level and open it up. For the purpose of this example, I'm only going to change the background just so we understand that it's a different level. Now let's repeat the process for the third, the fourth and the fifth levels, assigning the according background to each one of them. Once that's done, make sure to open the build settings again and drag in all the levels in the correct order. And finally we can open the Scriptable Objects Maps folder and assign the correct scene to load to all the maps. And now we can test the final result. If you press play and you did everything correctly, you should be able to play the first level, then unlock the second one. Then if you play the second one, you can unlock the third one, and so on. Alright, we're done with the maps. Now let's move on to the cars. For the sake of keeping this video on point and just because I don't want it to end up 1 hour long, I'm gonna skip the trivial parts and focus on the most important stuff. First of all, we need to create a car script. Like the map script, this one's gonna be a scriptable object, but we're gonna change the file name and the menu name to fit. As for the variables, we'll need a car name, description and price. Also, for the sake of this example, I want each car to have 3 different stats: speed, acceleration and handling. And the final thing that we need is a game object that points to a 3D model of a car that we want to display. Also, we can use headers inside scriptable objects to create a certain structure. This can be especially useful when you have lots of variables. Take a look for yourself. If you go back into Unity and select a car scriptable object, all our variable fields are divided into certain categories by these nice looking headers. Alright, the next step will be to create a car display script, which will have a similar structure to the map display script, but we'll adapt it to this scene. I'm gonna do a bit of tweaking, delete the background and rename a couple objects, then open the scriptable object changer script. In here I'm gonna duplicate the map display variable and change its class and name to car display. The next thing that we'll need is a car container object, which will hold a 3D model, and don't forget to reset its position to 0. Now I'm gonna import 5 3D cars, which will be available in the description if you wanna get them, and start working on the scene until it looks good.
One eternity later.
As you can see, I've gotten rid of most of the UI except the car name, description, price and the buttons. Now let's create the bars that will show the car stats. The concept here is gonna be very simple. We're gonna have a gray bar image, and on top of it I'm gonna place an image of the same size, but this one is gonna be blue. And also the second one is gonna be filled, and let's change the fill method to horizontal. So basically the higher a car stat is, the more the blue bar is gonna fill up. Once you've done this, duplicate this bar 2 times so we can show the acceleration and handling stat as well. Right, the next step will be to choose the car display object and replace the map display script with the car display one. In here we're gonna do pretty much the same thing that we did before, display the car name, car description and car price. Then let's create 3 image variables that will be the blue fill bars that I've just shown you. Then we're gonna make the fill amount of the image be equal to the stat divided by 100. And that's because the value of the stats will range from 0 to 100, 100 being the maximum. Following that, we'll need a transform for the car holder. And inside the display method, we're gonna check if the car holder has any children. If it does, we're gonna destroy the first child. And then we're gonna instantiate the car model that we get from the scriptable object. Once you have that, let's open the scriptable objects changer script again. And inside the change scriptable object method, let's check if the car display is not null. And if that's the case, we're gonna display the information about our car. Now let's go back into Unity, select the car display object and drag in all the correct references. Make sure to drag in the blue fill bar image, not the gray one. The next step is to open the folder with the car scriptable objects, and if you don't have one, let's create it now, and then punch in all the information about the first car. Now let's delete the car object from the scene because we're gonna spawn a new one anyway, and you might need to tweak the rotation of the car container to make sure that the car model faces the camera when spawned. The next step is to select the card changer object, remove the map display reference if you have one, drag in the card display reference, then remove all the scriptable objects that we had in here and drag in the new card scriptable object that we just created. Alright, everything's looking good so far. Now let's exit play mode and make sure to create all the other cards so this system can work properly. I'm gonna create 5 cars because that's how many models I have, and assign random descriptions and stats to all of them. And that should be it. Now let's select the card changer object and open the scriptable object changer script for a second. Let's add 2 headers in here, one for the scriptable objects and another one for the display scripts. It's gonna make it easier to understand and read. Now we can drag the rest of the cars into the array and press play. As you can see, the switching works fine, but the camera is a bit off, so I'm gonna pause the game for a bit and adjust it. And remember that if you make changes to a position inside play mode, these changes are not gonna be saved, so you have to copy the position and paste it in again after you exit play mode. And finally, after a lot of tweaking, we have a scene that actually looks nice and all the cars fit into it. Now let's move on to the final part of the video about the gun selection. And this one goes out to all the gun heads out there.
My gun! Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang! All right.
Our first step will be to go to the scenes folder and create a new folder for the guns, then to duplicate the scene that we used for the cars and place it into the guns folder. Rename it to gun display, save it and open it. We'll repeat almost the same process that we did with the cars. So first of all, let's create a gun script, which will be a scriptable object. Then create a new script called gun display, which will be responsible for displaying all the data. Open the gun script and make it into a scriptable object, which I'm sure you know how to do automatically by now. And when you're done, start creating all the variables. First we're gonna need a gun name, then we're gonna need 4 stats, damage, accuracy, range and fire rate, and finally a game object for the gun model. And just to maintain good practices, let's split these variables into 3 categories by using headers. Great, when you're done, open the gun display script. As we did with the other display scripts, let's create a public void called display gun, which will take in a scriptable object of type gun. Next, open the scriptable object changer and create a new variable for the gun display. Now go to the bottom of the script and check if the gun display is not null. If it isn't, we're gonna display the gun, as we did with the other objects. Now I'm gonna do a bit of tweaking, delete the ground, change the camera color, and leave only the gun name in the UI. I've also imported a free pack of 5 great looking gun models, and if you want to see how they look, you can just drag them into a gun container object. Now let's open the gun display script, make sure that we display the name of a gun, and for the stats I want to try something different this time. Instead of using a simple fill bar, this time I want us to show how good a gun is by using a certain amount of stars in each stat. So if a gun has maximum damage, it will show 10 stars in the damage field. For this to work, I'm going to create a row, and in the beginning of a row we'll have the name of a stat, and then after that we'll have 10 white stars. When you're done doing that, select all the white stars and place them under a game object which I call empty stars. Duplicate this parent object, call the new one filled stars, then select all of its children and change the sprite of the image from the white star to the yellow star. Now that we have one row completed, you can take it and duplicate it 3 times and place it one underneath the other until we have 4 stats. Obviously we need to change the name of the stat as well, so that we understand which one it is. And when you're done, you can select the gun display object again, drag in the reference for the gun name text and open the script. To make our star system work, we're gonna need 4 transforms. I'm gonna call them damage stars, accuracy stars, range stars and fire rate stars. And the final variable that we'll need in here is a reference to the gun holder. Now, to display the amount of stars equal to the stat value, we're gonna use a for loop, and we're gonna iterate through all the child objects of the damage stars transform first. Then we're gonna access the game object of a child and use the setActive method. And we're gonna activate the child object in case its index is smaller than the stat value, in this case the gun damage. Now let's take the entire loop, duplicate it, replace the damage stars with accuracy stars and the gun damage with the gun accuracy. Now repeat the same process 2 more times until you've handled all the stats. And the final step here is to take the code from the card display, which handles the destruction and the instantiation, and paste it into the gun display script. Obviously you'll need to change the card holder with the gun holder here, and I made a small mistake by making the gun holder a game object. It should have been a transform. Now inside the instantiation code, also replace the card holder with the gun holder, and the card model with the gun model from the _gun scriptable object. Now let's get back into Unity and drag in all the references into the gun display script. To make sure I don't get anything wrong, I'm gonna rename all of them accordingly. Obviously this is not mandatory, but it helps if you want to prevent errors. Next I'm gonna rename the gun container to gun holder to fit the variable name, and I'm gonna delete the pistol that I put underneath it. Now let's go into the scriptable objects folder, create a new folder for the guns, and create a gun object for the pistol. I started filling in the stats here, but I actually have a neat little idea that we can implement quickly. We can use the range attribute in front of each stat to limit its value from 1 to 10. Now when you go back into Unity, you'll see these nice little sliders that allow you to change the value from 1 to 10 gradually. Now I'm gonna create 5 guns with various stats. The first one a pistol, an SMG, a shotgun, an assault rifle, and a sniper. Now let's select the gun changer object, pass in the gun display, and put all of the guns that we created inside the scriptable objects array. Now let's press play and see how it works. As you can see, the switching works fine, but the names are a bit weird. And that's because I made a mistake in the gun display script. I used the name parameter instead of using the gun name variable. Once you change that, you'll see that the issue is fixed. But now I want to take some time to adjust the camera to make the guns look better, because some of them just don't fit on the screen. I'm gonna drag it back a bit, and that actually solves the entire issue. Now it looks good and everything fits on the screen. So I'm gonna copy the position and paste it after I exit play mode. If you press play now, you'll see that everything looks and works nicely. Now I want to put a finishing touch on all of this and make the guns spin. I think it would be cool if you could see them from all angles, and it would also make the menu a bit less static. So let's go into the scripts folder and create a new C# script called gunholder. Attach it to the gunholder object and open it up. We'll need only one variable in here for the rotation speed. Now let's create an update method, and in here we're gonna adjust the transform's Euler angles. We're gonna make it equal to a new vector 3, which will keep the same angle on the x-axis and on the z-axis, but on the y-axis we're actually gonna increment the angle by time.delta time multiplied by speed. And that's because we want to rotate on the y-axis. Obviously you can switch it up and make it rotate on the x or z-axis, or even make it rotate on multiple axes at the same time. Alright, now let's get back into Unity, and don't forget to assign the speed variable, otherwise it's not gonna rotate. I found that a value of 10 works pretty well for me. Alright, now we can press play and you'll see that all the guns will rotate now. I don't know why, but this small change actually makes it look a lot better. And we've finally reached the end of the video. Congratulations! Now you know how to use scriptable objects in order to build a map selection screen, car garage, or a gun shop. And as always at the end of the video, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Bo Gray, Jason Ledbetter, and Akister, you guys are amazing. And if you want to help me release more videos and maybe tackle an idea that you have in mind, consider becoming a Patreon supporter as well. That's it, go make some games now.